The rain fell steadily on the city streets, turning the sidewalks into mirrors of glowing streetlights. Emma sat alone in a small cafe, her fingers wrapped around a warm cup of coffee. She liked rainy evenings because they made everything feel slower, more thoughtful. The gentle tapping of the rain against the windows was almost hypnotic. And for a moment, she let herself sink into the comfort of being alone. Life had been hectic, and the last few months had left her feeling fragile. A breakup had shaken her, leaving quiet moments filled with memories she wasn't sure she wanted to hold on to, yet couldn't let go of. She stared out the window, watching the raindrops race each other down the glass, wishing for a distraction, a spark, anything that could lift the weight she carried across the cafe. Nathan had been watching the rain too, though his attention drifted quickly to her. He had come in to wait for a meeting, hoping to escape the relentless grayness of the afternoon. He noticed her immediately, her quiet presence. The way she seemed so absorbed in her thoughts, yet radiated warmth even without trying. He had always been observant, someone who noticed the little details others missed, and something about Emma drew him in. Her eyes, the way she stirred her coffee without really looking at it, the small, almost shy smile she gave when she thought no one was watching, it all made him pause. He didn't usually approach strangers, but tonight felt different. There was a pull he couldn't ignore. The cafe was nearly full. Every table taken by people escaping the rain, typing on laptops, or huddled over books. Nathan hesitated near the doorway, unsure if he should sit at one of the crowded tables or simply wait. After a few moments, he gathered courage. He approached Emma and asked, voice polite and careful, "Excuse me, mind if I join you?" All the other tables seemed taken. Emma looked up, surprised but not uncomfortable. There was an openness in her eyes, a spark of curiosity. She gestured toward the empty chair across from her. "Sure, I don't mind," she said softly. Her voice carried a warmth that immediately put him at ease. He sat down and they introduced themselves. At first it was small talk, polite conversation about the weather and the cafe. But soon the conversation began to flow naturally. Emma talked about her love for books and how the rain reminded her of the old days when she would spend hours reading by the window. Nathan shared stories of growing up in the city, his job, and how he had always felt a little out of place in the fast-moving world around him. There was laughter, quiet pauses, and moments where neither felt the need to fill the silence. Something about the simplicity of the connection surprised them both. Nathan found himself drawn to her, not just by her beauty, but by the way she seemed real, unguarded, and present. Emma, on the other hand, felt a warmth she hadn't experienced in months. A reminder that connection could be gentle and natural, not forced or fleeting. She noticed how he listened, how his eyes lit up when he laughed, how his hand occasionally brushed the edge of the table in a way that felt deliberate yet subtle. Outside, the rain intensified, but inside the cafe, it created a cocoon of comfort. The soft hum of conversations, the clinking of coffee cups, and the rhythmic patter against the windows made everything else fade away. For a moment, it was just the two of them, sharing a space that felt suspended from the rest of the world. Emma shifted slightly in her chair, a shy smile tugging at her lips. "You know," she said, her voice dropping to a soft, almost playful whisper, "Son, go with the flow. I'm enjoying this." Nathan froze for a heartbeat, startled by her words. There was something about the way she said it, gentle, inviting, and yet tinged with a vulnerability he wanted to protect. It was not just a playful remark. It carried trust, a hint of longing, and a quiet promise of more if he dared to take it. He felt his chest tighten, a warmth spreading through him that he hadn't expected. The evening had shifted subtly but irreversibly, and he sensed that this moment was the beginning of something significant. Emma noticed his pause and smiled, a little mischievously. She didn't explain further, but her eyes held a depth that made him want to understand, to stay in that moment as long as possible. Nathan realized that this was re-meeting someone who made the ordinary extraordinary just by being present. He wanted to talk, to keep the conversation going, but words felt inadequate. Instead, he let himself simply sit there, listening, watching, and feeling the connection grow. They continued talking, sharing small stories, favorite childhood memories, and dreams they hadn't told anyone else. The hours slipped by unnoticed, the rain outside turning into a gentle drizzle. Each laugh, each glance, each carefully spoken word built a fragile bridge between them. Nathan noticed the way Emma's hands moved when she was excited about a story, the way her eyes sparkled when she laughed, the little sighs she made when remembering something meaningful. Emma noticed the same things in him, the tilt of his head when he was thinking, the quiet confidence in his voice, the ease with which he shared parts of himself that weren't usually visible to strangers. Time seemed to blur, and for a few precious hours, neither of them thought about their worries, past mistakes, or the challenges waiting outside the cafe doors. They were simply present, fully immersed in the unexpected joy of finding someone who made the world feel softer, warmer, and more inviting as the cafe's lights reflected on the rain-soaked windows. Emma leaned back in her chair, a contented smile playing on her lips. She felt a lightness in her chest, a rare sense of being seen and understood. Nathan, too, felt a shift inside him. He had come in seeking temporary shelter from the rain, but he had found something else entirely: connection, possibility, and the gentle thrill of shared moments with someone who might just change everything. The night ended too soon, as nights often do when they are filled with new beginnings. Nathan stood, unsure of what to say next, afraid to break the delicate spell of the evening. Emma rose as well, gathering her bag, and offered a small, knowing smile. "Thank you for coming over," she said softly. "Thank you." "For letting me," he replied, his voice quiet but filled with something he couldn't quite name. As they stepped out into the night, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the streetlights. Nathan walked beside her, the unspoken understanding between them growing stronger with each step. They didn't rush to define the moment. They didn't need to. For now, it was enough to simply walk together, to feel the connection that had started in a small cafe and was quietly transforming both their hearts. And as they parted ways that night, both carried a sense of anticipation and hope. Something had begun, fragile yet undeniable, and neither wanted to let it go. Emma's words lingered in Nathan's mind, soft but unforgettable. "Son, go with the flow. I'm enjoying this." The evening had started like any other rainy day, but it ended as the first chapter of a story neither of them knew they were ready to write, but both were eager to see unfold. The rain had stopped, leaving the city streets shiny and slick under the glow of the streetlights. Emma and Nathan stepped out of the cafe together, their shoes splashing lightly in the shallow puddles. Nathan offered his jacket without thinking, and Emma accepted with a small, grateful smile, slipping her arms inside the sleeves. The gesture was simple, but it carried warmth, a quiet intimacy that neither had expected after such a brief meeting. They started walking side by side, the city feeling quieter than usual, almost as if it were holding its breath along with them. They walked without a clear destination, letting the rhythm of their steps guide them. Nathan noticed how Emma seemed at ease despite the lingering dampness in her hair and the chill of the evening air. She laughed softly at the occasional car splashing water from the gutters, and he felt a pull toward her laughter, a desire to keep hearing it. There was something comforting in the silence that fell between them as well, a shared understanding that words weren't always necessary to feel close. "I didn't expect tonight to turn out like this," Nathan said finally, glancing at her. His voice was casual, but there was an edge of curiosity in it. Emma tilted her head, considering him for a moment. "Neither did I," she admitted. "Sometimes the best things happen when you don't plan at all." She smiled, and it felt like sunlight breaking through clouds, warm and sudden. As they wandered, Emma spoke about her childhood in Seattle, memories of rainy days that mirrored tonight, afternoons spent reading in quiet corners, and the comfort of being lost in stories. Nathan listened, genuinely interested, finding himself drawn to her in a way he hadn't anticipated. He shared pieces of his own life, too, how he had moved to the city for work, how lonely it could feel to start fresh in an unfamiliar place, and how he often wished for someone to simply understand him. There was no judgment in their conversation, no pressure, just a natural flow that neither wanted to break. They came upon a small bridge overlooking a quiet river. The water reflected the city lights, sparkling like liquid stars. Nathan hesitated for a moment, unsure if he should say something more. Worried about overstepping the fragile connection they had built, Emma, noticing his pause, reached out and touched his arm lightly, a gentle reassurance that made his chest tighten. "Just go with the flow," she whispered again, her voice soft, almost like a secret. "I feel like I can trust you." They continued walking along the river, sharing more stories and laughing at little things that happened along the way. Nathan found himself opening up in ways he rarely did, revealing small fears, small dreams, and small joys. Emma responded with equal openness, sharing her hopes for the future. The little things that made her heart light up and the moments she had lost to heartbreak in the past. There was a rhythm to their conversation, a back and forth that felt effortless, almost as if they had known each other far longer than a single evening. At one point, they stopped to watch a pair of ducks gliding across the water. Emma laughed softly, pointing out how determined they looked, moving in perfect synchrony despite the ripples around them. Nathan smiled, realizing how easily she found joy in small things, how her perspective made ordinary moments feel special. He reached for her hand instinctively, brushing it gently against hers, and she didn't pull away. Instead, she laced her fingers with his for just a second. A fleeting touch that left both of them with a strange, warm thrill. As the night deepened, they found themselves at a quiet little park. The benches were empty, the paths glistened with rain, and the city's hum felt distant. Emma rested her head lightly on Nathan's shoulder as they walked, feeling a comfort she hadn't felt in months. Nathan, in turn, felt a protective warmth toward her, a desire to make her smile, to keep her close, to savor every second of this unexpected connection. "Do you ever feel like life just moves too fast?" Emma asked, her voice quiet, thoughtful. "Like you miss the little moments that matter." "All the time," Nathan admitted. "But tonight feels different. It feels like we're in one of those moments we won't forget." He glanced down at her, catching the faint glow of the streetlights on her hair, and felt an ache of longing he couldn't quite define. Emma smiled, her eyes reflecting the river behind them. "I'm glad you're here," she said softly. "I think sometimes we just need to let things happen." Without worrying too much, her words were simple, but they carried a weight of sincerity, a trust that made Nathan's chest tighten. They stopped at the edge of the river, leaning against the railing and watching the water flow steadily beneath them. Nathan felt a strange mixture of excitement and calm, a desire to say something meaningful but unsure of the right words. Emma seemed to sense it, giving him a small, encouraging smile. "Son," she whispered again, playful yet tender, "just go with the flow. I'm enjoying this." Nathan's heart skipped a beat. The words were light, but they carried an intimacy that was rare and precious. He felt a warmth spreading through him, a connection that went beyond attraction, something deeper, more lasting. He realized in that moment that this evening was not just a fleeting encounter, was the start of something meaningful. Something he hadn't expected but didn't want to let go of. They lingered there for a few more minutes, talking in quiet voices, sharing thoughts and dreams. Neither of them wanted to break the spell of the night. When they finally started walking back, the city felt different, brighter, warmer, full of possibility. Every step they took together seemed to solidify the bond forming between them. The sense that this connection, fragile as it was, had the potential to grow into something truly remarkable as they approached the point where they would part ways. Both felt a twinge of hesitation. Neither wanted to let the evening end, but the night had to move on. Emma offered a soft smile, her eyes warm and thoughtful. "Thank you for tonight," she said, her voice carrying more meaning than the words suggested. Nathan nodded, his own smile tentative but full of feeling. "No, thank you for letting me be here," he replied. There was a pause, a moment where the world seemed to hold its breath. And then they parted with a quiet sense of anticipation, both aware that this night had changed them in ways neither could fully explain. As Nathan walked away, he replayed her words over and over in his mind, Son, go with the flow. I'm enjoying this. They weren't just playful, they were an invitation, a signal that something beautiful was beginning, and for the first time in a long while. He felt that life might just surprise him in the best way possible. The city continued to glisten under the post-rain glow, and Nathan knew that this was only the beginning. The connection he felt with Emma was new, fragile, and exhilarating. He couldn't wait to see where the flow would take them next. Days turned into a week, and Emma and Nathan found themselves thinking about each other more than they had expected. Every morning her thoughts drifted to the warmth in his smile, the way he listened so carefully, as if each word she spoke mattered. Nathan, meanwhile, felt an unusual sense of anticipation each time his phone buzzed, hoping it would be a message from her. It wasn't just attraction, it was a connection that felt deeper than either of them had experienced in a long time. They began meeting more often, intentionally this time. Coffee shops became their little sanctuary, quiet corners where they could talk without interruption. Walks through the city became their shared ritual. Exploring streets neither had noticed before, laughing at small, unexpected things, a dog chasing its tail, a bus splashing water onto the sidewalk, the way the wind carried the smell of fresh rain from the parks. Each moment was simple, yet it carried a quiet magic, a reminder that life could be gentle and thrilling at the same time. One evening, the rain returned, heavier than before, tapping against windows and creating a soft rhythm on the streets. Nathan and Emma were walking together, faster this time, chasing shelter and laughing at their soaked shoes. They ducked under a small awning in front of a bookstore, breathing heavily, laughing and trying to catch their balance. Emma looked at him, hair plastered to her forehead, cheeks flushed, and smiled in a way that made his chest tighten. There was joy in her eyes, a spark that made him forget everything else. "Do you know what makes moments like this special?" she asked, her voice soft, thoughtful, yet carrying a hint of excitement. Nathan shook his head, curious. "They're fleeting," she said, glancing at the rain that continued to pour down. "But fleeting can be beautiful, if you let it flow." Her eyes met his, steady and sincere, and he felt an electric pull toward her. He wanted to tell her how he felt, to confess the way his heart raced whenever she smiled or laughed, but the words didn't come. Instead, he reached for her hand instinctively, brushing his fingers against hers. She didn't pull away. In fact, she gently held his hand for a moment longer, letting the warmth of their connection linger. It was simple, but it spoke volumes. It said more than any words could: trust, care, and a hint of something growing between them. They wandered down quieter streets, rain dripping from their hair and coats, and shared stories of their pasts. Nathan talked about the loneliness he sometimes felt moving through a city where he didn't know many people, the pressure of work, and how he often longed for someone who would just understand him without needing explanations. Emma listened with that quiet intensity that had drawn him in from the start, nodding occasionally, her eyes soft and compassionate. Then she shared her own experiences, heartbreaks, dreams she hadn't chased, and the lingering fear of opening up too soon. Each word built a bridge between them, each shared memory creating a space where both could feel safe, seen, and understood. They eventually came to a quiet little park, the paths shiny from the rain, benches glistening under the streetlights. They slowed their pace, walking closer together, their hands brushing occasionally. Emma stopped for a moment, looking up at the sky where the clouds were beginning to part, revealing tiny pinpricks of stars. Nathan stood beside her, feeling the gentle closeness. It's the way the air between them seemed to vibrate with unspoken emotion. "Do you ever feel like life just rushes by?" Emma asked, her voice low, almost hesitant. "Like you miss the moments that matter most?" Nathan nodded slowly. "All the time," he admitted. "But tonight? Tonight feels different. It feels like we're living one of those moments." He glanced at her, catching the faint reflection of the streetlights in her eyes, and felt a tight pull in his chest, a mix of excitement and something tender he didn't want to name. Emma reached out, resting her head lightly on his shoulder. It was a simple gesture, but it carried trust and comfort, the kind of intimacy that didn't need labels. Nathan felt a protective warmth, a desire to hold the moment to make it last as long as possible. There was no pressure, no rush, just the quiet understanding that both of them wanted each other in this fleeting, perfect evening. A gentle breeze stirred the wet leaves around them, and Emma looked up at him, her hair damp and sticking to her forehead. She smiled, a soft, playful expression that made his heart skip. "Son," she whispered again, echoing the words she had said in the cafe. "I'm enjoying this. Just being with you, feeling this." Nathan froze for a heartbeat, caught off guard by the tenderness in her voice. It wasn't just a playful comment. It was an invitation, a gentle acknowledgement of the connection they were building, the trust she was extending to him. He felt warmth spread through him, an understanding that this moment was precious and rare, something he wanted to protect and cherish. They sat on a park bench, letting the rain soak them through, talking quietly and laughing softly. They shared small stories, little confessions, things that weren't important to anyone else but felt monumental in the space they were creating together. Nathan realized he could be himself without fear of judgment, and Emma felt a sense of relief and joy she hadn't felt in months. Every glance, every smile, every quiet pause deepened the bond between them, and neither wanted to break it. As the rain began to ease, the city seemed to breathe around them. The sounds of distant cars, footsteps echoing on wet pavement, and the occasional dog barking created a gentle soundtrack to their evening. Nathan and Emma didn't notice time passing. They were lost in the flow of the moment, carried forward by the simplicity and beauty of being together. Eventually, they walked back toward the streets where they had started, their hands brushing more often, the comfort between them growing with every step. Nathan wanted to say more, to tell her exactly how he felt, but he also knew the magic of this evening was in its gentle unfolding. He didn't want to rush it, didn't want to risk breaking the fragile connection. When they reached the point where they would part ways for the night, neither spoke immediately. There was a quiet tension, the kind that comes from shared emotions too complex to summarize in a single sentence. Emma looked at him, her eyes soft and expressive. And Nathan felt the pull of something more waiting just beneath the surface. "Thank you for tonight," Emma said finally, her voice low but sincere. It really meant a lot. Nathan smiled, trying to match the warmth she gave. "No, thank you for letting me be part of it," he replied, his words deliberate, carrying a quiet honesty that reflected how he truly felt as they walked away from each other. Nathan replayed her words over and over in his mind. "Son, I'm enjoying this." The phrase was playful yet tender, and it left him with a sense of hope and anticipation. He knew that this was not just a fleeting encounter. It was the beginning of something meaningful, something that could grow and deepen over time. Emma, too, felt a spark of excitement as she walked home. She realized she had allowed herself to trust again, to enjoy someone's presence without fear, and to feel the thrill of connection that was both gentle and electrifying. She smiled to herself, thinking about Nathan's shy but genuine way of listening, the little moments where he had made her laugh, and the sense of being seen in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. The night ended, but the memory lingered warm, soft, and unforgettable. Both Emma and Nathan knew that the flow of life had brought them together for a reason, and neither wanted to resist it. Something beautiful had started, fragile and new, and the possibility of what could come next filled both of them with quiet anticipation. The city around them continued its late-night rhythm, lights shimmering on wet pavements, cars passing with distant hums, and the occasional rustle of wind through trees. But for Emma and Nathan, the world had narrowed to the space between them, to the trust and connection they had shared under the rain, and to the promise of more moments like this waiting just ahead. And as they each returned to their separate paths for the night, both carried the hope that this unexpected, beautiful flow of life was only just beginning. The days that followed were filled with a quiet excitement neither Emma nor Nathan had expected. Their connection, fragile yet strong, grew with every meeting. Each morning, Emma woke with a lingering thought of him, the memory of his smile and the warmth of his presence replaying in her mind. Nathan, in turn, felt a flutter of anticipation whenever he checked his phone, hoping for a message or a small note from her. It wasn't just the thrill of new romance, it was something deeper. A feeling of being truly seen and understood that both had been craving for months. They spent more time together intentionally, not leaving their encounters to chance. Walks through the city became a ritual, each step revealing little details they hadn't noticed before. They explored quiet streets, little parks, and cozy cafes, finding comfort in the shared simplicity of their adventures. Every laugh, every conversation, every moment of comfortable silence strengthened the bond that had begun in a rainy cafe days ago. It was as if the city itself had conspired to bring them together, turning ordinary places into a backdrop for something extraordinary. One evening, Nathan suggested they take a walk along the river that cut through the city. The water reflected the last light of sunset, shimmering gold and pink across the gentle ripples. Emma slipped her hand into his without thinking, a small gesture that felt completely natural. Nathan felt a warmth spread through him, the kind that comes from being close to someone who makes your heart feel lighter. They walked side by side, talking about small victories in their week, the challenges they had faced, and the little moments that had made them smile. Emma shared a funny story about her coworkers' chaotic attempts to organize a meeting, while Nathan told her about a misadventure with a delivery that had gone hilariously wrong. Their laughter blended with the gentle sounds of the river, creating a rhythm that made everything else fade away. At some point, they stopped to watch a flock of birds flying low across the water. The sight was simple, yet it carried a quiet beauty, a reminder of the fleeting moments that could hold so much meaning. Nathan looked at Emma and noticed the way this soft light caught her hair, how her eyes sparkled with amusement and wonder. He felt an ache of gratitude, a desire to hold on to the moment, to make it last longer than time allowed. "You know," Emma said softly, leaning slightly against him, "I never thought I could feel this way again. It's peaceful, in a way I didn't know I missed." Nathan tightened his hand around hers, feeling the sincerity of her words. "Me too," he admitted. "I didn't expect to find someone I could share quiet moments like this with. Someone who makes everything feel lighter." They continued walking until they reached a small rooftop garden overlooking the city skyline. The lights twinkled below them like distant stars, and the air carried the faint scent of evening flowers. They sat on a bench, shoulders brushing, enjoying the quiet intimacy of being together without distraction. Nathan noticed the softness in Emma's expression, the way her features relaxed when she was with him. He realized that, in her presence, he felt a calm he hadn't known for years. Emma rested her head lightly on his shoulder, and Nathan didn't move. The gesture was simple, unforced, yet it carried a depth of trust and comfort. For a long moment they sat in silence, letting the city's hum wrap around them. Each second felt deliberate and important, a reminder that meaningful moments didn't need to be loud or dramatic, they only needed to be genuine. "Do you ever wonder if life can surprise you in the best ways?" Emma asked quietly, her voice barely above the wind. "All the time," Nathan replied, his eyes on the skyline. "I think sometimes the best things are the ones we don't plan for." He looked down at her, seeing the way her eyes reflected the city lights, and felt his chest tighten. "Like this," he added softly. Emma smiled, her head still resting on his shoulder. "Exactly. Sometimes we just need to let life flow. To trust the moment, trust the person, and trust ourselves." Nathan shifted slightly, bringing her hand to his lips for a gentle kiss. It wasn't grand or showy, but it held the weight of everything they had shared: the laughter, the trust, the quiet confessions, and the growing affection. Emma squeezed his hand in return, her heart swelling with the same unspoken understanding as the night deepened. They leaned back to look at the stars appearing above the skyline. The city below felt distant, irrelevant, as if time itself had paused to let them exist in this shared bubble. Nathan spoke quietly, almost as if to himself. "I don't want this night to end. I don't want to stop feeling this." Emma turned to him, her eyes soft and luminous. "You don't have to," she whispered. "We can let it flow and see where it takes us." Nathan smiled, relief and happiness mixing in his chest. He realized that this connection, delicate and new, was something neither of them needed to rush or force. It was alive, growing naturally, fueled by trust, laughter, and the quiet magic of being understood. They spent hours on that rooftop, talking about dreams they hadn't yet pursued, places they wanted to see, and small fears they had never shared with anyone else. Nathan confessed that he had sometimes felt lonely in the city, unsure if he would ever find someone who truly understood him. Emma admitted that heartbreak had made her cautious, but being with him made her feel brave again. Each revelation brought them closer, not just physically, but emotionally, cementing a bond neither of them wanted to break. Eventually, the night grew cooler, and the city lights reflected softly on the wet streets below. Nathan walked Emma back to her apartment, the quiet rhythm of their steps echoing the slow heartbeat of their connection. They paused at her doorstep, neither wanting to say goodbye too quickly. Emma looked up at him, a soft, sincere smile on her lips. "Thank you." "For everything," she said, her voice gentle. "For tonight, for the week, for just being you." Nathan reached for her hand, holding it gently. "No, thank you. For trusting me, for letting this happen. I'm glad we didn't rush, that we let it flow."